Okay, so today we're going to talk about diversity of plants and focus a lot on like the evolution of plants. This is chapter 18. So chapter 18 talks about both plants and fungi, but we're just going to kind of focus on plants. So before we started, I just thought I'd show you, I love plants. I have so many of them in my house and so that. So I'm just going to show you for fun some of the ones that were in my living room that I really like. So this is a pothos, and I really like the coloring of this one. I really like the light and the green coloring. So I thought I would just share that with you guys. I actually don't know which species this is, but I found this at plant shop. I think I got this one at Valley Fair, that one plant shop that's there. And I just really like it because of this weird like root system that it has right here. Again, I don't know which species this is. And then recently, I got really into succulent because one of my friends loves succulent, and I didn't realize how colorful succulent can be. So my daughter and I, for Valentine, made this little heart succulent right here, so you can kind of see. So there's a bunch of little baby succulents on here. They can get actually really big, but it's kind of really interesting how succulents can vary so much. Like we tend to think of succulent as grouping with cactus, and before my friend actually introduced me to succulent, I kind of thought of them as cactus, but now I realize it can be pretty diverse. And so you guys can't really tell from here, but there's like a lot of different, not only different coloring that's available for this, but there's also like a lot of different texture. So we have some that are like really shiny and waxy, probably because of the lipid coat on them, but then other ones that are really velvety. I actually don't know the evolutionary advantage of why you would be velvety. My guess is it has to do something with the pollinators and maybe like the stickiness of like pollens getting to it, but don't hold me to that. I actually don't really know. Anyway, this is my little heart Valentine's. Just thought I'd share with you guys before we dive into the actual a lot of the science behind plants. So as I mentioned, this chapter talks about plants and fungi, but we're going to kind of focus on just the plant aspects of it. Okay, let's go and move on. Okay, so our goal today is kind of talk about just plant evolution, and we're going to look at both non-vascular as well as vascular plants. So as we evolve, how that actually evolved to a root system, and how plants can reproduce differently as time went by. So we'll kind of see that. And specifically, we're going to talk about seedless vascular versus seeded vascular. So they're actually different in a lot of different aspects. So let's kind of focus on that. But let's first just kind of give an overall view and look at plant evolution. Okay, so plants, as even the ones I just showed you right now, we can see can vary quite a bit, right? From like the succulents to like the pothos to, I wish I knew what the name of this one, the last plant that I showed you guys, or the one with the roots, but I don't, sorry. Anyway, they can vary quite a bit, and as we look over here, we can see they vary quite a bit here as well, right? We have everything from like this composite head right here, like a daisy, to the plants that has fruit with it, and so we can see that we have some plants where the fruit kind of helps with protection of the seed here. We have other ones where the flower kind of helps attract certain pollinators, right? And then we have other ones where the seeds are really protected in a very hardy cone. And so we'll kind of take a look at all of those. But originally we thought that plants possibly evolved from also photosynthetic eukaryote, but maybe more along of like an algae. So it's been theorized that plants likely evolved from a freshwater algae like 500 million years ago. And some of the support for why we think this is the case is that they both have chlorophyll A and B. So if you kind of recall when we were looking at energy of life and photosynthesis, how those chlorophylls are where we have the pigmentation that can actually harness the sun energy and convert it into like food for the plants, right? So they both have chlorophyll. They can store their carbohydrates. So once they harness that sun energy and place it into chemical energy, they can actually store that chemical energy as starch. Do you guys recall what it is that animals store our excess carbohydrate as? obviously it's not part of this chapter, but we have covered this. So glycogen, right? So an animal is equivalent to starch, is pretty much glycogen. And then the last thing that kind of supports why we think that plants evolved from freshwater algae is the idea that they have cellulose, which is just another polysaccharide chain, but they have cellulose in their cell wall. And plants also have cell walls with cellulose in it. So it's believed that the ozone layer was formed roughly 600 million years ago when there was just a lot of oxygen in Earth being able to actually form this ozone layer. And up to then, it was kind of hard to live on Earth because just all of that UV radiation from the sun just made it super harmful for plants to really, and not just plants, but animals and everything, to really evolve and have life on Earth. And so it's theorized that plants most likely evolved from freshwater algae after the ozone layer was formed. So plants, this probably happened maybe 500 million-ish years ago. And so let's kind of take a look at some of the evolution here. So prior to plants moving to land, they pretty much lived in water. So we can kind of say that this time period, the plants are mainly in water, and over time, plants evolved to be able to actually survive on land. And so what are some of the major evolutionary events that allow plants to actually adapt and live on land? Well, one of them is forming vascular tissue, so be able to actually form roots and stems and leaves to be able to absorb and take up water. The next one is increasing in the ability to actually photosynthesize. So the freshwater algae are able to do photosynthesis, but it's believed that as the plants are adapting to living on land, that their ability to photosynthesize increase. Another evolutionary event that happened is the formation of seed, and that pretty much occur once we actually hit the gymnosperm here. So the gymnosperm actually can contain the embryo, and with the embryo nutrients to kind of help the embryo grow, and is inside this protective coat. So this is known as seeds. And that was one of the evolutionary adaptation. And our last adaptation is actually as we move from gymnosperm into angiosperm. So with angiosperm, we now develop flowers. And so the flowers are actually the development of these reproductive structure that allows plants to be able to reproduce, further reproduce. And so these flowers, like we tend to think of flowers as pretty beautiful smelling structures that we love having decorate inside and outside of our house. But the purpose of the flowers is actually to attract these pollinators as well as give rise to fruits, right, as a way to kind of reproduce. Okay, so let's go. So plants tend to alternate between these two life cycles. They exist as either a sporophyte or as gametophyte. So sporophyte is a 2N, also known as a diploid. And so this means they have two copies of their chromosome. So you and I, we're diploid because we have one copy from mom, one copy from dad. So that's kind of how we can think about it, right? So the diploid stage is two copies and is formed by spores during meiosis. The spores then can develop into new plant organism. The other state that plants can exist in is gametophyte. So gametophyte you can think of as gamete. So an example in humans, a gamete would be the sperm and the egg itself, right? So the sperm and the egg have one copy of the chromosome, so it is a haploid. It's 1N and is haploid. And this haploid stage is formed by gamete by mitosis, and the gametes will actually fuse together to form the diploid sporophyte. So if we go right here with meiosis, meiosis will form the spore, and the spore again is a haploid. The spore will grow through mitosis, so the cells are dividing and kind of just getting bigger, right? So now we go from a single small cell into multiple cells, but at this point it's still just haploid. So we'll undergo mitosis at this point. The mitosis will then, the gametophyte will then form gametes, and these gametes now can actually fertilize together. So if you think about us, that would be like the sperm and the egg coming together to fertilize. Well, plants can do something similar where they can have two gametes be able to fertilize and form a new plant organism, right? So they will fertilize and it will form a zygote at the two ends. So now the diploid, and the zygote will undergo mitosis to get a little bit bigger, and eventually will be what we know as a sporophyte. And as the sporophyte continues to kind of get bigger and grow, it will eventually give rise to a new organism. So in the next section, we'll actually start looking at plants as they evolve through time, starting with the non-vascular plant, and we'll actually take a look at non-vascular plant and see this actual plant alternating between two life cycles. So let's stop here for this section, and I'll see you in the next section. We actually introduce our first evolutionary event, which is moving from water to kind of adapting to being able to move onto land.